29th, 2023 shall come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Q motion to approve the agenda, please.
So offered.
Second.
Moved by Mike, seconded by Dana, that we approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. New business 3, Emerald Edge Apartment Project request for zoning change. Mr. Flory.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to say, I think I'll stay here, and then we can expedite things and break Mike's 12-minute meeting record tonight. Break his last standing record on the way out. It'll be like Walter Payton.
22 minutes.
Yeah.
20.
Okay, 22?
22? Jennifer will back me up on that. 20.
It's like 20 or 22, somewhere in there.
20. I've got a good mind for numbers.
So this, as Mayor indicated, just a resolution here to set the date for refer this matter on the rezoning on the Emerald Edge subdivision apartment project to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So what this does is set the date for a public hearing for 6 p.m. It's your meeting on January 2nd. That would be on a Tuesday since January 1st, so we haven't actually adjusted that date, but we'll do that at one of the meetings in December, change that from January 1st to January 2nd. So 6 p.m. January 2nd, we'll put the notice in the newspaper. That's not less than 7, no more than 20-day notice. So we anticipate putting that notice of the hearing in the newspaper on December 21st. And Mr. Ritter, who is here this evening, thanks for joining us, Mike, has got a date set with the Planning Commission confirmed for December 26th for this rezoning petition to be heard for the Planning and Zoning Commission. So, other than that, again, in the packet there is copy, the orange sheet is copy of the notice of public hearing, kind of lengthy because of the meets and bounds legal description for the property. Again, this is to change the property zoning classification from CI1, which all that area out there is zone intensive commercial. So this would change it to from CI1 intensive commercial to RM20 medium density multifamily residential, which Mike advises the proposed apartment project would fit within that zoning category classification. The next sheet, that purple sheet, is the legal description. This was prepared by WHKS and Company, surveyors there in Mason City. Again, the legal description of the property, as you know, it's about an 8.5 acre parcel of property located just north of where the future Hy-Vee grocery store would be constructed at some point in the future. And I know it's hard to see on the purple sheet there, but you can kind of see a map of it. Kind of looks like a flipped backwards half a state of Mississippi or something. So it's kind of jags down a little bit there at the bottom and then back up. But hopefully you can make out that. It's kind of a faint outline there, but maybe you can see that in there. And then didn't copy well in color, but this is supposed to be blue and white on the exterior here, and you see the balconies, but generally that's what an elevation of the proposed apartment project would ultimately look like. So and that's all I've got on that one.
Any questions, comments for Mr. Flory, Council?
Just going to say it looks fabulous.
Looks really
You know?
good. I should mention, so Bennett, Nelson and I, we've seen this exact replica. Was this the one in Casson? I believe
Yes.
was the blue and white one.
Yeah.
So very similar to that. And, you know, we said, boy, those colors will look perfect here. He said, well, you know, let's consider that done then. So kind of the blue and white kind of has that classic lake kind of look to it. And so, yeah, I thought architecturally it fit in really well.
This is more of a throwback look with the 50s TV. Black and
white. Pretty much.
Now, I do have one legitimate question. This is primarily the hearing for the zoning change.
Correct.
It doesn't have anything to do with that height restriction.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
that would be
Separate, I'll go for a board adjustment.
Board of Adjustment. All right, I'm
Yep,
just
correct.
trying to get this
No, that's
straight in my
correct.
mind. All right, thank you.
Yep, yeah, as Mike was saying, this would only deal, your referral to P and Z is only for the change of the zoning. As they've suggested, they're going to be looking for a height variance, and that would have to go to the Board of Adjustment.
Therefore, Scott, it'd be appropriate to include in that motion for Resolution 2356 to include the place and time.
Yes, January 2nd
Second,
will be the date
2024.
of the public hearing before the council, 6 PM, and December 26th, 5:30 PM will be planning and zoning.
December 26th.
That's correct. Oh, go ahead.
Evening, gentlemen, Mayor. We were at the Plan and Zoning meeting last night. We talked about on the 26th. We may move that to Wednesday, the 20th. I've got a call into Chris Terry to make sure he could make that date. He could make the 26th, but I haven't heard back if he can make the 20th, just to keep it out of the holiday week. That way, have that done before that. And I will let everybody know ahead of time, but we're kind of planning on the 20th.
Okay, well, we'll change it to the 20th then.
And still include your January 2nd.
Correct.
All right, and the 20th, P and Z
It'd be a Wednesday night at 5:30.
for
The rezoning.
rezoning, okay. All right, therefore, if there are no more questions of either Mr. Ritter or Mr. Flory, we'll move on. A motion to approve Resolution 2356, a resolution to refer proposal on rezoning to Planning and Zoning Commission for a recommendation for Emerald Edge subdivision. And the rezoning meeting shall be with P and Z on December 20th of 2023, specific time,
5:30.
5:30 right here in the council chambers, as well as the public hearing, which will be held January 2nd, 2024 at 6 PM, also right here in the council chambers. Motion, please.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Bennett, seconded by Gary, that we approve Resolution 2356. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, Mike,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
and Dana.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Resolution 2356 is duly adopted. 3B, Annual Urban Renewal Tax Increment Financing Report for fiscal year '23, review by Jacob Whitman, our Director of Finance and Administrative Services. Welcome, Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate you guys having this meeting here tonight and just the ability to get these reports done and off to the state. First off, as Mayor said, we're going to go through the annual urban renewal report. And this report, of the three reports, is pretty basic. It just kind of talks about what happened in the urban renewal area during the year and just gives a recap of that. So on the gray sheets in your packet there, I have the little memo that I gave you guys, and then on the next sheet is kind of the summary of the report, and I'll just kind of walk through that a little bit. So at the beginning of the year, we had about just over $55,000 in cash in the TIF fund. During the year, we received $2,785,287. Part of that was TIF taxes, and then part of it was interest that we received on the funds sitting there. Then as far as expenditures, we had $566,000 in expenditures, rebate expenditures. Those are, just as a reminder, taxes that a specific business paid in, and then they get rebated back. And then non-rebate expenditures were $1.3 million, and that would be more for like infrastructure and other projects we had going on in the TIF area. So that left us with ending cash balance of $943,000, which is a big jump from the beginning cash balance. But the reason for that was certifying the Marriott bonds we had. So we have the funds sitting there basically to pay those off each year to make our payment, and then when they finally come due, which is in 2026, we can call them if we choose, or I think 28 is the final date on those if we don't. So, any questions on any of that?
Council, any questions for Jacob? None appearing. Therefore, entertain a motion to approve fiscal year 2023 Urban Renewal Tax Increment Financing Report.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dana, seconded by Gary, that we approve the annual Urban Renewal Tax Increment Financing Report for fiscal 23. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. 3C, fiscal year 23 road use tax financial report. Review again. Mr. Woodman, Jacob, welcome.
Okay, so jumping into the next report here, road use tax. So once again, this is a separate fund we have for these specific tax dollars that we have coming in for road use, so that'd be the fuel tax dollars. So as far as revenues that we received just over $1 million in road use tax revenues. We had street expenditures in the general fund, so these wouldn't be road use tax revenues. They would be more like property tax revenues or other revenues that we would receive. So those street expenditures totaled 1.4 million. The road use funds expenditures totaled just over $1 million, so right in line with where our revenue came in. And then we did have some capital project fund expenditures of 1.3, which was for the East Main project that we had going on during the year. So there was during the year a reduction in the fund balance of $427,000 with an ending fund balance of $2.6 million in the road use funds. And we have $400,000 of that kind of set aside as a capital reserve. Yeah, I mean, I think that is a good, strong balance in road use. I think overall, if you look at it, because it's a road use report that shows not just the road use fund, but also what happened for roads and streets in the general fund. So between all those funds, we spent over just over $4 million on roads during the last fiscal year, which I think is great. We got to keep that infrastructure up and going, and we're investing in the future there. So, yeah. Is there any other questions or?
Council, any questions, comments?
Yeah, a couple.
Okay.
For the tens out there that might be watching, Jennifer can probably, two. All right, we got two, we didn't get shut out.
There you go.
Anyway, my understanding is this revenue generally comes from gasoline tax. Okay, and secondly, it's kind of based on your population, and in light of the fact that our population has shrunk recently, maybe that's had a little bit of an impact on this. I guess you don't have the history here, so that wouldn't be a fair question.
Yeah.
But okay, and the last thing I noticed, the capital reserve fund, if I'm also understanding this correctly, we can use this for other things besides road building. For example, road maintenance equipment and
Yep.
yeah, and so it also helps us keep up with the needs in our maintenance department to purchase
Right.
equipment. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of on page 1 and 2 of the report, it kind of goes through and shows what we spent it on, more on a detailed basis. So on the first column is the general fund, and what we had for expenditures there. So if you're looking at page 1 of 8 on the bottom of your road use report, it shows for the general fund, it shows all the salaries, the benefits, and then the different line items that we spent on. And then when you look at the road use fund, it'll show what we spent stuff on there. So, I mean, we spent on repairs and maintenance. We spent over 200,000 on some equipment for, I think we purchased a big, large truck during the year. I wasn't here, but, so,
Another one coming, I think.
yeah, and there's another one coming.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I just think it's kind of important to point some of these things out because a lot of people have no idea where the money comes from and where it's going. And, you mentioned infrastructure, and I think in the time I've been on the council, that's one of the most important uses we've been able to make with that money and everything else in the city of Clear Lake. So, thank you.
One other thing, sorry, just on a side note, one other thing I think is interesting to look at is in the report on page 2, it does talk about snow removal and the costs we have associated with that. And so it was just over $59,000 that we spent on snow removal in the last fiscal year. It's just kind of, as a finance person, it's fun to look at those numbers sometimes, so.
Interesting. Any other comments, questions? Okay, entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2357, a resolution approving the fiscal year 23 road use tax report. Motion, please.
So offered.
Second.
Moved by Mike, seconded by Gary, that we approve Resolution 2357. Is there any discussion? Roll call. Gary?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Resolution 2357 duly adopted. 3D, Annual City Financial Report, Fiscal Year 23. Once again, review, Mr. Widman.
I'll just kind of walk through the report a little bit here. You guys have the memo, so I'm sure you've read through that. Just looking at the report itself then, so on page 1 of the report, maybe just kind of walk through a few of the numbers. Looking at revenues, we brought in total revenues of, when you look at it with transfers, $21,340,002. That was just slightly under budget, but a lot of that under budget for that total line item was because we had budgeted more for transfers and we didn't transfer as much as we had budgeted. Overall, without the transfers, the budgeted revenues were just under 18 million, which was very close to the actual. In looking down at the expense side, so it kind of breaks it into programs. So when it says expenditures and other financing uses, we have public safety, public works, et cetera. So if you look at those line items, actuals compared to budget, there was one line item that we were over budget on, and that was the public safety function. And I did note in the memo, it looked like we had put a down payment on a pumper truck for the fire department, and that kind of threw it over budget. But when you look at it overall, we had budgeted just over 20 million, so 20,611,928, and we only spent 17,966,533. So quite a bit under what we had budgeted. So that's always a good thing to look at, is seeing, okay, are we keeping our expenses in line with what we had projected? And it's always hard with the budget because you're just, it's not a guess, it's an educated guess. And so it's good to see at the end of the year that you come in under that educated guess. Because if you're coming over, you got to have the revenue source somewhere to cover that. So then overall, if you look down at the bottom, our ending fund balance as of June 30th was 15 million, just over 15 million on the general fund side, 27 million on the proprietary funds, so water, sewer, garbage, for a total of 42 million. So sitting with pretty strong fund balances. Down below that, looking at debt, so GO debt, we have 3,304,500, which is significantly lower than our total borrowing capacity. Total borrowing capacity is 61 million, so we're about 5.3% of that. So for a city, we have very low debt. As far as the next pages of the report, it just kind of goes more into detail on the revenues, exactly what for public safety, whether it was police function, fire function, kind of gives you the breakout of those. So really the only other page I wanted to highlight was page, I think it's 10 of 11, so it's the very last one with data on there. And just a couple things on there. So we do report our total salaries and wages for the year on there. So total salaries and wages, so this would be for everybody in the city, was $4.8 million. But we have good people working here. Salaries and wages is always a significant part of your budget. So that was what that dollar figure was. As far as valuations, because it gives you the actual valuations here for figuring our debt limit. So valuations in the city, we had 1.2 billion in valuations. So we have very strong valuations here in the city. So that's good to see. And then cash on hand at the end of the year, we were about 17 million. So between cash and events and investments.
How much was that last figure, Jacob?
17 million.
That's cash on hand, you said?
Cash and events,
Okay.
investments, yep.
So I was just going to mention on the, if you recall, on the fire truck situation, we had budget amount and then it was considerably more than what we had originally anticipated. And Doug, the fire chief, had presented us with an opportunity through that vendor to sort of prepay and we could get a discount. So when we authorized that, we knew that was going to be an issue there because we hadn't appropriated enough in that fiscal year 23 to cover that. But again, it was offset by a pretty significant discount to get the prepayment in.
And it was budgeted for 24, so it's not like it wasn't
Right.
a budgeted item at all, it's just
Just timing.
timing.
Yeah, smart move to pull it forward.
Yes,
Yeah.
saved thousands of dollars.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and again, let me comment on that, because I think, again, it's part and parcel of the incredibly prudent fiscal management we've had here under your leadership, and I know you're relatively new, Jacob, but, you know, with the cash reserves we have and whatnot, that gives us that flexibility. And so we're able to save the taxpayer monies, right, because of that
Correct.
flexibility. So, you know. And I think, frankly, looking at this, I just want to compliment you, Jacob. Again, it's exciting to have you here on our team. I know you've put in a tremendous amount of work putting these reports together. And so I greatly appreciate that and your work here. Also, I just want to say again to our city administrator, Scott Flory,
Thank you.
really exciting to read your letter here and just the coming in under budget. I mean, we have made some really good strategic investments in my view. And when opportunities come up, we have the ability then to take advantage of them because of that prudent fiscal management. So I just really want to thank you and the rest of the team. You know, it's just amazing because at 5.3% on our debt limit, I know that will go up potentially in the future with some of the projects we have, but
That's an incredibly strong position, and I just think taxpayers in Clear Lake really appreciate that. So,
I know I say it every year when we talk about, it's one of my favorite topics, is debt limit.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there honestly, there probably aren't, two cities in the state that have anything like that. And yeah, I know Dana brought up, but one time, what it take to get to zero. I said, when you're under 5%, I think at that time we were at 3%, but that is, for all intents and purposes, zero.
Yeah, and particularly when your average weighted cost of capital is, what, under 1%? Or maybe it's not under 1% now, but I bet a significant chunk of that debt is that
Yes.
we issued.
Yeah, I think our average debt, or average interest was about 0.94, somewhere in
Yeah.
there. I think we're under 1%. So when you see that outstanding debt, I'm glad you pointed that out. I should have put that in the cover memo. But yeah, the cost of that debt is almost nothing.
Exactly, and I think that just buttresses your strong point about essentially being kind of debt-free, because when your cost of capital is that low, I
It's
mean, you're-
under 1%.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Yep, thank you, Jacob.
An interesting example, if I go back to, Scott, you remember this very well, but when the New Year's ball came down in '06, I believe that was the time when we got the notice from Snell's Ambulance that they
Yes,
would
yeah,
no
yeah.
longer be serving our community and this area.
Yeah.
And so bang, right away, we had to do something quickly. And I do recall where we got the ambulances, and they weren't brand
No, they were
new,
used.
but we had money
Yeah.
available to be able to do that at that point in time. And then getting started, getting up and going. And so the fact of the matter is that when you have good fiduciary management, we're able to do that without having, to go here or there and everywhere, knocking on doors, finding money to buy a new service, is what it was. It wasn't, you can't even talk ambulance, because with a new service comes salaries, comes the
Equipment.
person to head it all up. Where do you put it? Do you put it under the fire department? Do you leave it separate? Obviously, we're under the fire department now, and it's been a service, use that word, that we provide for our citizens for the last 18 years, and it's worked very well. But once again, it's the financial management that's a key.
I've been involved for a while, and I think another thing that we've insisted upon with our department heads is doing a little planning ahead for capital equipment replacement. And generally, when we need something new, the money has been budgeted over the course of several years. And I know when we started buying the non-used ambulances, it was a whole new world. I mean, I think the first one we bought was 160 grand, and
100, yeah.
now they're north of 200 grand, and we've got 3 of them sitting there. But, once again, all paid for. Our squad cars, all paid for. Our road graders are, fill in the blank. They're all paid for. And, I think that's a throwback to when I was a kid, and a few of the others at the dais here. You didn't go borrow money to buy something. Your dad said, well, mow some lawns, shovel some walks, and when you've saved up enough money, then you can go buy that. And it works well, especially if you hearken back a few years ago when the interest rates weren't that dirt cheap. So anyway, to Bennett's point, I think we've been very fiscally responsible, and I think it really raises the value added to the taxpayer money that gets paid in Clear Lake, because they aren't paying a lot of it in interest, like other levels of government we won't mention tonight.
That's exactly right.
Yes, we've had superb financial management, and that eases the minds of those 5 of us that sit here, 6 of us, 7 of us, and others who help in the management of all of that. And
Yeah, I will say, that was one thing that drew me to Clear Lake here was seeing the financials. And I mean, even before I applied for the job, I went out and looked at the financials of the cities, because I wasn't going to get in a city that had a ton of debt and was in a bad position. And that was definitely a big draw for me coming here. And I think it speaks well to what the council and what Scott has done over the years. And looking forward to that moving forward. And just, it does give you a lot of flexibility and being able to save the citizens money and provide better services.
thank you for those words.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, anything else? Shall we move on to, I gotta have a motion, right? Where am I?
Need a motion
All right.
on that one.
Okay, a motion to approve Resolution 2358, a resolution approving the fiscal year 2023 city financial report. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gary, seconded by Mike, that we approve Resolution 2358. Is there any discussion? Roll call. Bennett?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Gary?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0, and Resolution 2358 is duly adopted. Well done. Move over to 3E, Internal Advance Funding for Urban Renewal Project. Review, Scott Flory.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is the yellow sheet there in your packet, the resolution authorizing internal advances for funding of urban renewal projects. This is, we do several of these throughout the year. We're getting one in here, so all these reports Jacob has to have filed and into the state. This is another one I have to have filed with the county by December 1st. So we're getting this one in sort of under the wire as well. But over the course of the last year, we've internally financed a number of projects that we've had in previously amended urban renewal plan updates. So, for example, I won't go through them all, but like the 700 block of Buddy Holly Place, the alley improvement project. If you recall, previously we had gone through a process to amend our urban renewal plan and include that as a project. So now what we're doing is, prior to December 1st, certifying that as an eligible project for TIF collection purposes. So for next year, for our budget 2025, we'll receive funding to reimburse the general fund, I believe in this case, for the funds spent on these various projects. So again, we've got some Surf District projects, Emerald Edge project. You've recalled like a 10-year-long railroad crossing improvement project, it seems like up there, but finally coming to a conclusion on that. And so our net on that is after the DOT. Once you get the DOT and railroad involved, that's how you get to 10 years on these. But our net cost on that one's going to, because we had money from the DOT, we had money from the railroad on that. So ultimately, our responsibility fiscally on that was about $31,000 or so. So again, we financed that, and then we're going to, since that's in the urban renewal area, we're going to certify that and collect that as well. Emerald Edge, you recall, storm sewer development agreement that we had there, and turning lane development agreement. So we've already paid those, and we're going to now recover the cost and replenish those funds with TIF funds. So that's really about all I've got on that one, unless anybody has any questions.
Comments, questions for Scott? Thank you, Scott, for entertaining a motion to approve Resolution 2359, a resolution authorizing internal advance for funding urban renewal projects. Motion, please.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Dennis, seconded by Bennett, that we approve Resolution 2359. Is there any discussion? Roll call. Dana?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
And Bennett.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Resolution 2359 is duly adopted. Other business, review of city engineer position, description and postings, Scott Flory and Jacob Woodman.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor and Council. These are the brown sheets in your packet. Jacob can fill in the blanks here on the position announcement and job description. He was helpful in preparing all of those things. Here over, I would say, 4 or 5 months or so ago, I was involved in a project here where we were getting some proposals on, and met an individual who has a licensed professional civil engineer in the state, and we're kind of going through a project. Actually, it's the pickleball project, and he introduced himself. In this case, he said, "Well, he lives here." I said, "Oh, interesting." And make a long story short, we had a pretty long, engaging conversation. He's a younger person. Now, of course, there'd be multiple people potentially applying for the job, so this isn't like one thing. But it got me thinking, and I had a conversation with Gary and several of you about this opportunity. It got me thinking about, might have an opportunity here that we could add a really, what I would categorize as really a important, critical member to our team here. We've got to go through a process, of course, and everything, and see how things come up. But definitely have some mutual interest here. And I think it'd be a terrific opportunity to say, I've known Gary for a long time, and this is something that he has kind of pressed me on for a very long time. I would say probably at least 12 years. And it was one of those that I would always resist and say, we're not, these private consulting firms, they can't hire these folks in this field. And can't retain them. I said, we're not going to be able to do that. It's just going to be a waste of time. If we could even attract somebody, they stay a year or two, and it'd just be a revolving door. Well, I definitely have a reversal of thought on that after kind of this meeting. In this case, this particular gentleman that lives here is a young man with a family here, kids in our school system, and so forth, very committed to the community. So I got to thinking, and here's an opportunity. I think we could add somebody that would add a lot of value to things that we currently contract out for a lot of services on for professional civil engineering. So, for example, with Mr. Ritter here, things like our site plan reviews, subdivision reviews, project inspections and observations, these kinds of things. Every time, so like this apartment project would be a classic one, there would be quite a bit of money that we would pay in outside consulting to review plans on that and then present them to our Planning and Zoning Commission. And as we have gotten busier and busier and busier with building projects, the list of those things just grows and grows and grows. And so over the course of the year, we're spending a lot of money just on outsourcing plan reviews, so site plans, subdivisions, these kinds of things, let alone when we get involved in projects. We utilize inspectors, whether it's a firm like Veenstra & Kim. So when we do these street resurfacing projects, there's an inspector on that job, and we're paying a significant amount for that person to be out there a certain number of hours, kind of watching the project on our behalf. There's definitely an opportunity there to bring those things in-house, and this position could really pay for itself just in offsetting our outside costs on those things. There's also the opportunities. So when we promoted Jeremy Kornberg to Public Works Director, if you recall, in the years past, we had Joe and then Dave Whitehurst in that role. And of course, then Dave retired and we had Joe and Jeremy in that role. Then Joe retired and now we have Jeremy and no one in that role. So Jeremy gets involved in a lot of these kinds of engineering projects, capital improvement projects that we get involved in. And there isn't a number two person for him, as we've always had this, we always call it kind of the lead man person. And so we have never replaced that position. We just still have Jeremy there. But so for a classic one was this 8th Street sewer project for MBT Bank. Jeremy had to quit being Public Works Director so he could put on a different hat to come do this. So I think it gives an opportunity also to free up Jeremy's time to do, I hate to say, to be the Public Works Director, and give him more ability to mentor, guide, manage the folks that we have in the Public Works Department versus getting called into all of these construction projects and reviews and things like that. And so there's definitely those opportunities. We also have, you know, Mr. Ritter's our building official. He gets brought into these things. As we get busier and busier with just the building, again, he's only one person in that department. And as I like to say, we really don't have an insurance policy. If something were to happen in a couple of areas that we have, his would be one of them. Another would be potentially our water treatment director. Someone with this kind of professional licensure, registered licensed professional civil engineer, they can keep us afloat. So a difficult question would be, and we're vulnerable here, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but if something were to happen to Mike, for example, I have no backup. There is not a single person there, and the building activity does not stop here. So we would have to try to, and actually the city of Mason City just went through this when their head building official retired. They reached out to me and asked if we wanted to share some. I said, oh, we don't have that ability to do that at all. But they had a very difficult time replacing a building official person over there. In fact, modified the position requirements just to get somebody in the role. So we don't have any backup for that. We would be looking at probably trying to contract out in the short term with a consulting firm to cover us on that. And that is very difficult. Mason City also looked into that. It wasn't going to work for them. They couldn't get people to do it. So I don't know where we would go with that. Now, someone with this kind of licensure could definitely keep us above water. Likewise, and things like, you know, they're very DNR regulated, so water, for example, wastewater kinds of things that we get involved in. When you're a licensed professional civil engineer, you really have like a reciprocity on your education with what the DNR requirements are. So we have people that know how to do all these things, but they're not professionally licensed to sign things. So for example, like Adam is a licensed grade 3 treatment operator and plant superintendent. We don't have that, and those folks do not grow on trees. And if we said, hey, something happened there, I do not know where we would get a grade 3 operator. We'd be in some trouble. So someone with these kind of credentials can definitely slide in while they, you know, may not be able to know the day in, day out operations of, let's say, running a water plant. They have the professional credentials that would allow them to sign off on things that need to be signed off on. So I think, you know, what we'd like to do is advertise for this position, see what we get. I have a strong feeling that we'll at least have one applicant, or I wouldn't be bringing it forward, and kind of see where it goes with that. But very optimistic that we can find someone that I think would be a fit here and be a long-term employee, not someone that is a flash in the pan. You know, Gary, you want?
You'd like me to speak?
Yeah, go ahead. I saw this is
This has been a long time coming, and this is sweet music to my ears. I see much more even happening, Scott, with this position. I really do. I think our whole Public Works Department, Water Department, all are going to get under one scope. One person takes a lot off the administrative end.
It would take a lot off.
Take huge off. No longer you have to worry about if they got gas for the damn truck the next day.
Help a
You know,
lot.
which is, this is going to be huge. It's going to be a great asset to this community, period. That's all I have to really say. But it's a long time coming.
It has. I fought you for about 12 years on it.
I know.
Well, and I think it shows us coming from a position of being, to personify this, of being healthy We are a healthy organization, a healthy community, a healthy city, and this allows us not to have to sit on the edge of this table and just wait for something to happen, and then we're gasping for air. We're solidifying ourselves even more so than what we have been in the past. And it's nice to hear your testimony, but
Well,
about
this
this
summer, Jeremy got involved in something which he shouldn't have been, but he
He's
was
all
our
in.
only go-to guy. And I went and he called me up, can you come? And I did, and went and helped him out. And that's the things that can be handled by this, not the little things, like, and they're important too, but it takes the monkey off somebody's back a little bit.
Helpful.
Yeah.
It'd be very
Yeah.
helpful. Now, I will say, of the two people watching the meeting, he's probably one of those, so I don't prejudice my bargaining position here, but.
No, this is great. This is
Did-
fantastic. With everything coming up down the road,
Yeah.
with the surf project and the building subdivisions that want to get going and apartment houses. I mean, this is huge.
Did we have an engineer many, many, many years ago, decades ago?
Several people have suggested
Yeah,
that.
Mr. Johnson lived up on,
Andy Johnson.
up on North
Arlington.
15th Street.
That's correct, behind
Yeah,
your place.
okay, because somewhere I saw you made a comment that we'd never had one, and
Right.
the old mind was grinding away, and.
So I'm still kind of
popped up.
not totally convinced on that one yet, so yeah, I don't know in
Now,
today's.
you want to doubt? Come on. How long have you sat here with me? I've got another alternative, but she's not quite ready. My granddaughter's studying civil
you're
engineering
kidding.
at Iowa State, but she's only a freshman.
Oh,
so
wow.
We'll wait a couple years on that one.
Right
Can't
around
wait
ticket.
that long, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could, yeah.
Right. I would just agree with what's been said. I think it's a great opportunity for us to add to our staff. And so, yeah, agree totally with everybody's comments. Just a nice opportunity for us. And so, yeah, excellent. So,
Anything else to come before this council tonight? Want to thank Jacob, thank Scott. Great work.
You all for having the meeting.
They party.
This was 20 minutes too long.
Lori's doing magic. Lori's doing
Oh, I'm
magic
doing
at the
magic.
holiday party. Don't miss it.
Any other business?